Hey everyone, I'm down here, right at the bottom. Yep, that's right, I'm really small, but I'd like to make myself a lot bigger. So, let's press the button mark enhance and make myself a hell of a lot bigger. Oh, well now I'm all pixelated. What happens when you make pictures that are too small in resolution much bigger? And unlike on a lot of TV shows where you can enhance a picture by simply pressing a button and then defeating all sorts of pixels, press it, it doesn't always work out that way. As a matter of fact, it never works out that way in reality. This episode is about resolution, what you can do with it, what you shouldn't do with it, and what sort of results you get. What resolution should you be working for print? What resolution should you be working for screen? And if you've got to change the size of the file, what are the consequences? Hope you enjoy this episode of Creative Suite TV. Get your resolutions right. A lot of people are a little bit embarrassed to ask about resolution because it's something that's taken for granted. Have I got the right resolution for my particular file and for my particular output? And that's what we're going to have a look at. It's one of the absolute basic things that you need to know about digital imaging, particularly if you're using Photoshop. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to figure out what's going on with resolution. So to get started, I have got two images that seem to be identical side by side here in Photoshop. So we have them open in Photoshop. The image on the left, however, is a much higher resolution than the image over here on the right. So typically speaking, an industry standard thing is if you're a designer or a photographer working for print and things are going to be printed out, the standard resolution that's required to get a high quality print is 300 pixels per inch. That's this one on the left here. If you're just working for on-screen purposes, kind of like what we're doing right now, then 72 pixels per inch is typically the industry standard for working for resolution. So if you're designing for a website or you're doing an on-screen presentation only, 72 pixels per inch is the way to go. How do you check what resolution your image is and how do you change it if required? Okay, let's start by having a look at the 300 pixels per inch resolution. The easiest way to check is to open the file in Photoshop, come up to the image menu at the top of the screen here, and then scroll down to image size. So once clicked on image size, this is where we can tell exactly what's going on with our file. Instantly look down here, resolution, 300 pixels per inch. That's great. This is a high resolution file. So what we can tell is that at this size, 16 centimeters by 25 centimeters, that we can print this out at a high resolution. Okay. Now, if you don't work in metric, of course, you can change this over to inches if you're working in inches or points or percent or whatever you like. In Australia, we tend to work in millimeters and centimeters. So I'm going to leave that as it is. The pixel dimension at the top when you're talking about resolution for print really isn't relevant. We tend to focus on a physical size like in centimeters or inches and then the resolution down the bottom here. So typically this is great for a 16 centimeter by 25 centimeter print, pretty much in a magazine. That could go in a magazine or you could print it on your inkjet printer. Okay. Over on the right hand side, even though it looks the same resolution on screen, it's much less. This is 72 pixels per inch. So if I were to come back to the image size now and we compare this on the right hand image, you can see it's a much smaller resolution. Down here, 72 pixels per inch, and the overall pixel dimension is 480 by 722. It tends to be that this is more relevant when you're working on screen resolution images purely because we tend to measure things on the web if we're designing for online in pixel dimensions, and that's where we would read this a little bit more. Okay, so why wouldn't you just use the big one over here and upload it to the internet? It's too big. it's going to take way too long to download. You'd want to resize or make it much smaller so it fits onto that website and downloads very quickly for people. So, but this one looks fine, you might be wondering. The low resolution one looks fine. Why won't that print properly? Well, let's zoom in a little bit and have a good look. Now, here's a little bit of a trick. I've got two images side by side. I just Command Space Bar and Shift, and I can zoom both of these images at the same time. Now, when we zoom in, you can really quickly start to see that the image on the left, the high resolution one, still looks okay, whereas the image on the right, the low resolution one, instantly falls apart and becomes pixelated. So you can see that there is a big difference between the image on the right, low resolution 72 pixels per inch, image on the left, the high resolution one. So let's focus on this one and resize it down to a screen size. Here's what you would do. Image, image size, and then come down here and we can simply change the resolution in this field. I can change that to 72. You can see the pixel dimensions changes back to being smaller. Now, if this isn't happening on yours, it's probably because you have resample image deactivated. Now, resample image means either throw away or include new pixels. That's what that means. So with that switched off, all we'll be doing is making a much physically larger file at a smaller resolution. It's just a scale thing, okay? So we need to turn that on, resample images on, and then we type in 72. It's going to throw away a lot of information and therefore make a much smaller file size. So we select here, type in 72, much smaller file size. Now, if you are reducing the file size of something, you should always make sure that you choose bicubic sharper. It's best for reducing the size of an image and will make sure that it's nice and crisp and clear when you make that size adjustment. Now, as for you nutters out there that have decided that it's okay to increase the size of a file or increase the resolution, in fact, what you will get is a smooth, soft image with not a lot of detail in it. So if I take this one over here on the right and we try and increase the resolution, so I go image resolution, we say resample image, and I type in 300, we're trying to make this bigger. We're trying to take a low resolution file and make it into a higher resolution file. And we change this to bicubic smoother, best for enlargement, and we press OK. Now, as you can see, you don't end up with fantastic results. This is the original over here on the left, and this is the one we've just scaled up. Photoshop doesn't know how to invent that detail properly. It's not the same as having a higher resolution file. So if you're thinking of trying to make a big file out of a little one, yeah, you kind of can do it, but it doesn't look any good, and I'm not recommending it at all. Always start with the largest resolution file that you can, and then work from there. Then you're going to get a much better result in all of those cases. So that's about resolution. Hopefully that gets you started with Photoshop on the right foot, because if you get that bit wrong, then the rest of the work that you do in Photoshop has all been for nothing. I don't think you're going to end up with lousy looking work. So hopefully you learned something there. Thanks for tuning in to Creative Suite TV, and we'll see you again next time.